now that we've answered what is faith, we need to go on to the second question. And that second question is, whose faith is it? Is it God's faith or is it our faith? Now, I'm not talking about where does the ability to have faith come from, because that definitely comes from God, from Yahweh. He's the one that has given us the ability to think, to speak, to act. He's given us that ability when He gave us life, and that includes to be able to have faith. So to be able to have the ability to have faith, that comes from God. But do I believe, or is it God that gives me my faith completely, and I have nothing to do with it, or is it, is it my faith? Okay, so we talked a little bit about Romans 10, and let's go back to Romans 10, because Romans 10 is very, very important, because it tells us whose faith is it. And it says, "For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." How are they to call on one they have not believed in? And how are they to believe in one they have not heard of? And how are they to hear without someone preaching to them? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how timely is the arrival of those who proclaim the good news. And so that's the process. Okay, someone has to be sent in order to proclaim, so that someone can hear, and then someone can believe, and then someone can call on the Lord's name. The last verse in this passage, verse 17, says, "Consequently, faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes from the preached word of Christ." Or we could even say the word of God completely. And so here's the deal. This is what it says. Consequently, faith comes from what is heard. So I need to hear in order to believe, which is put my conviction in, and then I can be saved. And so that's the process. It's my faith. It completely comes from me. It's my conviction. Not saying, again, we don't have the ability on our own. God gave us the ability to have faith, but it is our faith completely, because faith comes from what we hear. And if you don't hear, you can't have faith. There's no possible way. And so that's very, very important. So it's our faith. Now, sometimes people take Ephesians 2, and then they say, see, it's not of us. Ephesians 2, 8, 9 says, "For by grace you are saved through faith. And this is not of yourself. It is the gift of God. It is not from works, so that no one can boast." So that first part, for by grace you are saved through faith. And this is not of yourself, it is the gift of God. What is the gift of God? The gift of God is grace and salvation, because there's no possible way that we can be saved on our own. There's no possible way to have grace, for us to give ourselves grace in order to have salvation. And salvation is not from works. There's no way we can work enough or do enough works in order to be saved. So that's what comes from God. But it's through our faith, it's through our conviction that we know that God gave us grace in order to have salvation, and that comes through Jesus Christ. Completely. That's how Yahweh set it up. There's no doubt about it. And so it's our faith. It's not God's faith. And He gave us the ability to have faith. When He gave us life, He gave us the ability to have faith, to have conviction. But we have to decide. That's why it's called conviction. And that conviction takes us to do. So whose faith is it? It's our faith. God gives us the ability to have faith, but it's us who puts our faith in what we have heard. Because of His grace, we can have salvation. So, there you go. That's the second part of this series, and I hope that God would bless you, that Yahweh would bless you and keep you, and keep studying.